On a quiet morning in East Pasadena, Robert Downey Jr. was driving his silver Audi to visit a children's hospital where he secretly volunteered. He was dressed in a stylish navy blazer over a vintage band t-shirt and designer jeans, his signature tinted glasses perched on his nose. As he drove through a four-way stop, police lights flashed behind him. He pulled over, confused but calm. Officer Mason Park approached the car nervously. He was a young cop who had received a vague report about a suspicious vehicle. When he reached the window, he asked for Robert's license and registration. As Robert reached for his documents, a loud noise from a nearby alley startled Officer Park. Thinking it was a gunshot, he drew his weapon and pointed it at Robert. Instead of panicking, Robert stayed calm. "You're okay," he said with his characteristic warmth. "It's just a noise. You're doing your job." His words helped Officer Park relax. Slowly, the officer lowered his gun, recognizing who Robert was. Robert invited him to sit on the sidewalk, and they talked for nearly half an hour about overcoming fear, handling pressure, and the importance of second chances, something Robert knew well from his own life journey. During their conversation, Officer Park confessed that he was struggling with the stress of his job. "I could have shot you," he admitted, his voice breaking. Robert nodded and said, "But you didn't." He explained how kindness and forgiveness had saved him during his own difficult times, including his struggles with addiction and his journey to recovery. "When you give kindness, you prove to yourself you still have something worth offering. Trust me, I've been at rock bottom and found my way back," Robert told him. Officer Park realized he had been letting fear control him. 3 weeks later, Officer Park visited the hospital where Robert volunteered. He brought sunflowers but didn't want to be noticed. When asked why sunflowers, he quoted something Robert had told him: "Kindness doesn't ask for attention. Like these flowers, we should all turn toward the light, especially after dark times." Back at the police precinct, Officer Park began to change. He smiled more and treated people with more compassion. Once he helped an elderly man fix his broken taillight instead of giving him a ticket. He started visiting schools to talk to children about overcoming fear. Other officers noticed the change and began following his example. Lieutenant Dana Ellis, Park's boss, called him into her office. She told him she was impressed by how he had turned a difficult situation into something positive. She offered him a position on a new team focused on mental health and crisis support. That night, Park received a letter from someone thanking him for changing how they viewed police officers. Meanwhile, at the hospital, a 9-year-old girl named Amara was fighting an illness. Robert had given her a copy of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory during one of his visits, telling her about imagination and second chances. One day, Officer Park happened to visit her room and noticed her teddy bear wearing a police badge sticker. They became friends, and Amara wrote a letter to Mr. D about meeting Officer Park. When Robert received the letter, he arranged to visit Amara again, bringing Officer Park with him. They took turns reading to her until she fell asleep, with Robert doing all his famous character voices that made her giggle. Inspired by this connection, Officer Park started a program called Books and Badges, pairing police officers with children in hospitals to read stories together. Robert quietly funded the first year through his foundation focused on children and recovery. 6 months later, Officer Park was working the night shift when he received a call about a possible suicide attempt. He found a man standing on the edge of a rooftop. Instead of giving a speech, Park called Robert for help. With Robert on speakerphone, they connected with the man through honesty about life's struggles. Robert shared his own story of hitting rock bottom and finding his way back. "I've been where you are, brother. The darkness isn't permanent," Robert told him. The man stepped back from the ledge. Word of their work spread quietly. The mayor of Los Angeles invited Robert to speak at a mental health and addiction recovery summit. In his speech, Robert didn't take credit for starting a movement. "I responded to a moment," he said with his characteristic mix of humor and depth. "A scared man, a gun, a choice, and I made the only one that felt right. After all, I know what it's like to need a second chance." He reminded everyone that they didn't need a title to lead or a uniform to protect someone. The impact of their kindness continued to grow. More cities adopted the Books and Badges program, with Robert's foundation helping it expand nationally. At St. Genesis Hospital, a colorful mural appeared, showing 3 silhouettes: a police officer, a man in a blazer with tinted glasses, and a small child holding a teddy bear with a badge. The plaque read, "They didn't change the world. They changed one heart at a time, and that changed everything." 15 years later, Amara had grown up to become a respected speaker and advocate for arts and healing. At a lecture at UCLA, she shared her story of meeting Mr. D and Officer Park. She explained how their kindness and Robert's own story of transformation had inspired her to start her own nonprofit called Second Acts, which paired performers and storytellers with at-risk youth and those in recovery. The program taught people of all ages that everyone deserves another chance, and that kindness wasn't just an act, but a legacy. What began as a tense traffic stop had grown into something much bigger, a ripple of kindness, second chances, and recovery spreading far beyond what anyone could have imagined. Much like Robert's own journey from his darkest days to becoming a force for good.